Welcome to the Delmarva Almanac. Each week, we connect you to the best of Delmarva. Like other almanacs, our aim is to tell you a little bit about our past, our present, and events in the near future. Here's Gretchen Hanson, Executive Chef of Hobos Restaurant and Bar in Rehoboth Beach, to tell us about a Delmarva delicacy.
I used to say when I was a young chef that I would eat anything if it held still long enough or didn't run faster than I could. Whether you have a fanatical devotion or a borderline obsession, you simply cannot deny that eating a soft-shell crab is more than a little weird and a lot bloodthirsty. There is that briefest of moments when they molt their hard shell and become a soft and tender sea spider. Someone at some point before recorded history decided at that very minute they were not only edible, but they were delicious, an uncommon delicacy, and since that time, chefs and foodies have had a fascination with creating new and different ways to present one of the most bizarre and unusual food items we consume. Softshell crabs have found their way onto menus around the world. I will unequivocally state that without exception, you should never eat a softshell that was not alive mere hours before you bit into him. Softshells, like all fresh crab meat, deteriorate at a very rapid rate, and anything over 48 hours old is already suspect in my book. Frozen softshells are completely pointless and futile. Don't even bother. If you are eating a softshell in a landlocked city, you had better check first before ordering, and make sure that they arrived via FedEx that morning. The Maryland blue crab is not the only crustacean to shed its skin and become entirely edible. The Mediterranean has a relative that is equally delicious and ubiquitous to the cuisine of the Amalfi Coast, and China and Japan have their entirely edible crustacean cousins as well. Softshell is a culinary term for crabs that have molted their exoskeleton and the new shell has not hardened yet. They are available from May to October and increasingly difficult to find and more expensive. Most Eastern Shore commercial fishermen are adept at reading the signs of the crab in the peeler stage, or pre-molt, and will put them in special tanks to watch for the shell to detach from the body. Literally, the whole crab can be eaten with the exception of the mouth parts, gills, lungs, and apron. The Eastern Shore did not invent the idea of fully edible crustaceans, but I like to think we perfected it. The Eastern Shore is undeniably crab crazy. First of all, they're the freshest here, and any crab pot or trap during the summer is bound to pull in at least a dozen softies. You have the briefest of moments to pull them out of the water before the new shells harden and become a paper shell. And you want to watch your crab pots most closely during the full moon when the quantity of peelers increases exponentially. They then must be kept alive till the very last minute before consumption, and by alive I do not mean listless. They must be feisty little crustaceans, and if you're not from around here, you get a little green around the gills, pardon the pun, while watching the fishmonger dispatch them to the next round. It is a remarkably grim and bloodthirsty business, which involves cutting off the face with a pair of sharp shears and pulling out the lungs while holding the thrashing body. In my kitchen, the position of house crab killer is one of honor, and each season you must earn your stripes to become the mighty appointed. Once the face, lungs, and apron are removed, they must be eaten with the greatest possible haste to ensure that the crab mustard remains fresh. This is the green, secret, gooey sauce that gushes out when you take the first bite. It tastes like sea and shore and crab, and is the absolutely most important component of the first soft shell. But how to actually eat them is where most of the controversy arrives. Deep frying is the most popular Eastern Shore method, no question, and the merits of a batter-dipped, deep-fried soft-shell sandwich with a hint of Old Bay, Eastern Shore tomatoes, and mayo cannot be disputed. After the actual dispatch of the crustacean, the making of the batter is the next big challenge. Too thick and the crunchy consistency is lost. Too thin and your soft shell becomes oily. Batter should be thick enough to pour as a thin pancake, but not quite crepe-like, and have just the slightest hint of Old Bay. Personally, I'm a huge fan of adding a bottle of Third Wave's First Wave IPA for that beachy, smack-your-lips flavor, and just a hint of hoppy carbonation. Give the batter a test run first, and then make sure you flour the crab, and then dip, so the batter adheres properly. So much work, right? That first bite with the crunch and ooze that makes you swoon. Literally swoon in a way that few other dishes can imitate. That first bite that reminds you life is delicious around here.
Well, that's all for this edition of the Delmarva Almanac. We'd like to thank our community partners, the Friends of Delmarva Public Radio, the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore, and underwriters EatDrinkBuyArt.com for their help in bringing this program to you, our audience. Our theme music was provided by Brightside Studio. This show has been a Moonshell production. Thanks for listening. Until we meet again, may the rhythms and tides of Delmarva bring you good fortune.